Welcome to the Write Your Own Story podcast. I'm your host, Betsy Leonidas, and the founder of the Write Your Own Story company. Girl, I can tell you right now, you are definitely enough. Here we value service, sisterhood, connection, laughter, and that super genuine, keep it real, tell you like it is honesty. My hope is at the end of each episode, you realize you can do whatever it is you dream about and that you are not alone with what you struggle with. I'm hoping that you are snapping and clapping and hell yes in your way through each one of these episodes. So if this tracks with you, let's get started. I'm so glad you're here. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Write Your Own Story podcast. I am so excited for my first guest for season 3 to be Kae Kronthaler-Williams. And I'm so proud of myself. I think I got that last name right. Kae is going to share some incredible wisdom on her perspective on what it is like for women in the corporate world. She is in the C-suite. She is an author. She is a badass. And she is honest, and she is here for the progression of women. And so, Kae, I'm going to put you right in my pocket and keep you forever and ever. I really appreciate the work that you do, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Betsy. I really appreciate you having me on the show. I'm looking forward to our conversation. It's an important one.
Indeed. Indeed. Before we kick off into the questions, I just want to set an intention. I love setting an intention before every episode, both to ground you and I, but also for the listener to just know what we're here for. So this episode is for women who have been told directly or indirectly that she is the problem. And that sends chills down my spine. Our intention is to name the systems that were not built for women in mind, offer language for what you're experiencing, and remind you that struggle is not personal failure. It's a signal for change. I think women really struggle with failure, but I mean, life is full of failures of all shapes and sizes. And so I'm really excited to reframe that. I'm really excited to talk about the systems that are in place and why it feels like we're wearing the wrong shoe on the wrong foot, and what impact that has and what kind of power and control we can take back and do something about it. So, Kae, thank you again.
Thank you.
Awesome. Can you just start us off with, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get to being here on this show?
So my background, I have been in B2B software marketing for over 30 years.
Awesome.
In various size organizations, very large ones, scale ups and startups. And about 20 months ago, almost 2 years ago, I decided to write a book called Not Made for You. And I wrote the book because I was seeing these patterns, which we will talk about. I've been seeing these patterns throughout my career that have created barriers for people, for women and, marginalized people, to have a fulfilling career, enjoy their career while they're building it. And years ago, I started to employ different strategies to figure out how to maneuver around these barriers and still be successful in my career. And I just came to a point where I wanted to share that with other people. I mentor a lot of women and men, but mostly women. And I recognized that I wanted to do that on a broader scale and get in front of larger audiences of women, because I think these strategies work. And it makes life so much easier in your career if you employ the strategies that I talk about in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a gift. I think, so many women are looking for solutions, but solutions for problems that I think, to your point, we can't quite name or identify yet, because so often we're told we're the problem. Mm-hmm. And listen, I'm all for accountability and corporate landscape, I should say, sort of professional landscape, right? Because it comes in many shapes and sizes, is complex. And every cast of characters is truly a character and an individual. I love the title, Not Made for You. It is like so bold. And for someone who has thought about this topic a lot, coming from over 15 years of corporate experience, emotional experiences, literal experiences. I've never thought of the fact of like, this wasn't made for me. And it's true. It absolutely wasn't. So did you have like one of those like hard stop moments where you were like, okay, the system wasn't broken. It's like, it's literally just not built for women?
So it wasn't one particular experience for me. I think it was over a number of years, but it was patterns that I was seeing in the companies in which I worked, and it, I started to recognize that what I was being told wasn't true to the evidence.
Mm,
So, for example,
yeah.
when I was working hard, having great results, but somebody else, a man was getting promoted who I knew wasn't as competent, but probably had better social alignment with the right people, was
Mm,
getting more sponsorship and support. Or I was hearing things like, you're not ready, you're not strategic enough, when I knew at some point that that wasn't true anymore.
yeah.
And so when you start to see those continuing to happen, not in just one department or one organization, because I've worked in many
Sure.
and started to see that pattern over time, I just started to pull it all together and recognize this is not me. This is
Yes.
a system that we're all working in, including men, but we're
Yeah.
all working in this system that really was built many years ago when men were in the workforce and women weren't.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't evolved. Our thoughts and perceptions of who should be promoted or what a great leader looks like, even though the organizations have changed and they're more diverse, that system has not changed.
God, and it's like it's slightly mysterious, right? Because if you theoretically are sitting next to a man in a similar role, performing at a similar rate, or even have the data, the facts, the results to be able to say, I am ready for the promotion, yet they continue to get more seats at the table or continue to get
Mm-hmm.
promoted faster. Or I found myself often in the case of, oh, I'm going to give you the title, I'm going to give you the responsibilities, but you have to do that for a while before I give you the title and the
Yes,
pay raise.
that
So I
happens a
was like,
lot.
I have to do both jobs until now you actually give me the job.
Yeah.
Um, the way that you said it was really profound in that men are in this system as well. What is it about the system that is so broken that when we're sitting side by side, performing of similar nature with similar results, or often, in particular cases, better results, why are men getting promoted? Why are men getting more seats at the table according to the system?
Because everything's looked through this bias that, again, the system was built a long time ago by men for men. So there's
Mm,
a bias that transcends the entire system. Who gets promoted? Who actually even gets hired? Right? Because what does talent look like?
mm-hmm.
It and if we, even I think women, if we were honest with ourselves and said, who do we think is a great leader, we'd probably in our mind think a white man
Mm,
immediately, right?
mm.
And we all have bias, but these systems are looking through that lens of bias in many areas that are advantageous for men and not so for women.
Gosh, even if that bias, that like initial instinct, just is for a second, and then it goes back to, oh my God, now I can think of all these women who are amazing leaders. Like it's still there, it's still
Yes.
intrinsic. So, how do you work within a system like that? Like, and I think, like you said, it transcends the systems that it's like it's bias that transcends the systems that are built. So, how do women continue to advocate for themselves?
I think the first thing is any problem, the first thing is awareness.
Yeah.
And so in the book, I tell my story and other women's stories, colleagues of mine, and more famous cases as well. And the reason I do that is because some of the bias that's happening in work, and in these rooms are frequent, but they're very subtle. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted to illuminate how they show up for women so you can recognize them. And
Yeah.
that's the first thing, is naming it, understanding, oh, I'm being spoken over, or my credibility is being taken away from me in this moment, and then understanding how to address it.
Yeah.
That's how we advocate for ourselves in these rooms and for other women as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Oops, I just hit my mic, everybody. Thank you for saying that it isn't just about the progression of our own trajectory. It is about, what is it? The rising tides lift all boats.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. Would you be open to sharing some of the anecdotes that you talk about in the book? Maybe some of the more well-known women and their stories so that we can start to recognize that in our own stories.
Sure. So I'll tell you the opening story,
Yeah, please.
which was I was in a meeting, in a board meeting, and there was a woman who was presenting her department. So typically you go in, there's your board, the CEO, et cetera, and you present the results of that past quarter to the board, and each
Sure.
department speaks. And so this woman was doing her presentation and she was being spoken over the entire time.
Mm.
And and not just being spoken over, they were having a conversation
Like
without
around her?
around her, without
Oh,
including her in it.
and she's standing up there literally presenting.
And she's presenting, yes. And
I
so
We all know that feeling.
right, it happens a lot
It
actually.
does. Yeah.
And she was frustrated. I could see it. I was signaling to her, "Do you want me to jump in?" And she, said no. And so after the meeting, she came up to me and said, "What am I doing wrong?
Hmm.
Why don't I have that credibility? Why don't they do that to you?" Which they did. They did speak over me, but I know how to take back control over that, right? And
Yeah.
so, and I almost answered her with the answer that we'd normally give. Well, you need to be more commanding, deeper voice. It literally, that thought hit my
Sure.
mind pretty quickly because again, we all have bias.
Yeah. It's programmed.
Yes. And I stopped myself and I said, "You didn't do anything. There's nothing that you need to fix. You didn't do anything wrong. They were speaking over you." And that's when I went and knew that that was the topic of the book that I was going to write. That's what drove me to write this book, was
Oh,
that initial conversation.
God.
Now, other situations are the ones that are pretty common are being spoken over in a meeting, and we'll talk about how to
Excellent.
address that.
Yeah.
Giving an idea, sharing an idea, and not it doesn't go anywhere, and then the next person repeats that idea, typically a man, and everybody jumps in like that's a fantastic idea. The
Hmm.
other one that is not uncommon is when a woman is speaking or sharing data, even if it's their own department, then somebody in the room asks another man for confirmation of what the woman just said.
Oh my God. That makes me rage.
So I'm going to, and I will share a story of that, which is in the book. There's a woman who I work with. This was happening to constantly. She knew her department inside out. I mean,
Hmm.
and I usually have my data prepared. She just, anything they asked her, she had the answer. She had the data. She was so good at her job. But
Yeah.
her boss at the time constantly asked another man in the room for confirmation.
Hmm.
And I spoke to her after one of the meetings and said, "I think you need to address this with our boss because you're losing credibility in that room." And she didn't address it, and they fired her
God.
because they didn't think she was valuable. And she was more prepared than the rest of us in the room, always. Like she
Yeah.
just knew everything about her department. And so that's what can happen if you don't address this. And a lot of times we think it's just a small slight, I'll let it go. But
Right.
the reality is you're losing your value and credibility in the room.
Without a doubt. It's like death by a thousand cuts, right? Because
Yes.
it's these little micro moments. And sometimes, to your point, in these big board meetings with, quarterly reviews, when you're giving the results for your department and still being spoke around, that's a big cut. That's not a tiny cut. But
Right.
like those little moments of, just looking to someone else for confirmation. Do you agree with what she's saying? Like, what? What?
Yes.
That is so infuriating. I have to tell you, I'm literally obsessed with my Aura Ring 4. Honestly, my Apple Watch was way too much noise for me. Stand up, sit down, you have a meeting, you're late, your steps are low, breathe, all the things. But this little ring has been an absolute game changer. It doesn't just track my sleep, it helps me actually rest better. Every morning, I get insights into my recovery, my readiness for the day, and whether my body needs more downtime. It even tracks my steps, my cycle, and literally so much more. If you're someone who loves data, cares about your health, and also loves cute jewelry, this ring is for you. This is a gentle reminder, backed by science, that rest is just as important as hustle. Unlock this powerful tool for better sleep, less stress, and smarter recovery with Aura Ring 4. Use my link in the show notes to get 10% off your Aura Ring today. Okay, so to your point, we've been bred for bias, right? These are conditionings that are going to take eons to undo. So then our next default seems to be from, what you're telling me, which tracks, is that what can I do better? What do I need to be doing differently? What do I need to change about myself that is a louder voice? It is, what is it in the room? When really, to your point, these women have done nothing wrong. Right. So then where does real change come from?
So it comes from, first of all, addressing it in the rooms.
Sometimes live,
sometimes it's more appropriate to address it outside of the room with a person, depending on who that person is or the situation. We all know that.
Yes.
But addressing it in the room. For example, if someone talks over you, because that happened to me quite a bit with one particular person, and many times in other companies as well, but one particular person. And so the way to address that is, John, put your hand out and look at him. John, I'm going to finish what I'm saying, and then I'd love to hear your perspective or the point you're trying to make.
Ooh.
Very simple.
Yep.
Very simple.
Yep.
Kamala Harris, we know, was very famous for I'm speaking, which that's fine as well. But I know that a lot of the women that I speak to are uncomfortable talking in these rooms in general, let alone kind of confronting a situation like that.
Absolutely. And if we think about like a man saying, hey, John, I'm going to finish my point and I would love to hear what you have to say. We wouldn't skip a beat. No. A woman does it and it's like, why does she have her claws out?
Right. Yes. But we have to address it.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes, to be fair, a lot of men probably don't recognize, it's not just men, other people as well, but they don't recognize they're doing it. And I think when you bring it to their attention, many of the men that I've worked with would be more conscious of doing that again. Not all, but many, right? So the other one is around if somebody is, you say something and then they go to the other person for acknowledgement. That one I would take outside of the room and go speak to that person and say, I noticed anytime I address something or answer one of your questions, you look to Jerry for confirmation. Why is that? And so they may say, well, you didn't give me enough data or you didn't give me enough information. And that is fair feedback.
Sure.
So you're getting good feedback.
Yeah.
They also may say, no, I don't do that. And then you say, yes, you have, and you can give an instance of it.
Absolutely.
And moving forward, I'd like to engage with you the way you engage with so-and-so.
Ooh, fire.
But it's calm.
Absolutely.
It's professional and it's strategic.
Yes. Right? And it's grounded in fact, right? Like you have the evidence. Right. It's almost like, has anyone, like where people are going to just pop in and say hi, but have you heard of the concept of gray rocking from cognitive behavioral therapy?
No.
So this is a great strategy if you are dealing with a high conflict person, a narcissistic personality that really sort of like wants to dig at your emotions. And it often is revolving around gaslighting, et cetera. And often we have to interact with these people in a professional setting, in a family setting, et cetera. So it's not like we can some people you can remove from your life and some people you can't, right? Yes. Often happens at the workplace. Gray rocking is this concept of like you strip all emotion from it. You think of like a colorful picture to you've just made it grayscale and you just stick to the facts. You don't bite at any of the emotional pieces that they put out there that you're just like, here is the fact, or here is the need, or here's the need, and here's the fact to support it. And
Yes.
like, that's it. You cut yourself off from all the color and emotion that sits behind it, not to invalidate how you feel, because it's maddening,
Yes.
as it is for men to be interrupted,
Sure.
devalued, second guessed, etc. So anyway, that just a little tangent because I love tangents, but
Yeah. No, I don't think that is a tangent. I think you make a valid point about taking the emotions out of it.
yeah,
And the best way to do that, and a lot of women are like, how are you always so calm in these situations?
yeah,
Because I recognize it for what it is. It's
mm,
not about me. It's about the system. It's about bias. It's about that individual's filter and
mm.
view of themselves and of me. And
I
so it's easier for me when I look at it that way to take away the emotion at the moment. Now, it doesn't mean I don't get off the call or out of the meeting. Okay, that was
right,
irritating, right? Of course, we
absolutely,
have those feelings, but what you can't do is react with emotion because you're feeding into a stereotype that we already have, which
yes,
is that we're emotional,
hmm,
right? So
absolutely.
going in with fact, being very calm, and not re explaining, like state what you need to state, and that
Ooh,
is it.
that is so good. I love the it has nothing to do with you. And again, like to your point earlier, if you get genuine feedback, like feedback is a gift, right?
Yes.
And the fact that I love that you're like, if you take the emotion out of it, you realize this is not personal, this is situational, this is bias based, etc. You can receive that feedback. Sometimes when you're so emotional, at least for me, I can't hear the feedback because I'm too
Yes.
busy in my emotions.
Right.
So I think that that is so excellent. And then also to not have to re-explain, they were there. You can, and I similar to this gray rocking concept is like the simpler the better, right? To be like, this is my need, this is what supports it, here's what I'd like moving forward.
Yes. And it's saying it once. And we have to
Ooh,
be comfortable with uncomfortable situations. So
yeah.
sometimes we'll say something and then we're apologizing what we said, or we're saying it again, or, was I clear? Don't do that. Don't engage with that. Just say it and let the silence happen. Let it sink in. They'll get your point better. Um,
Yeah. Ooh, silence is so powerful. I am horrible at silence, but that is like an excellent nugget that I'm going to continue to put in my growth arsenal.
yeah, you have to practice that because it isn't easy
No,
to allow that awkward silence.
absolutely. What are your thoughts? This is such a nuanced question, but like I've had it bite me in the butt when I've had these kinds of conversations in a corporate setting and then I didn't follow up and put it in writing. Um, I guess that's probably more related to the topic of like relative to promotion, or, it's one thing if you're like, I love this example of you spoke around me, over me, or needed validation from somebody else. You invalidated me.
Right.
Let's talk about that human to human, move forward, etc. But
Sure.
let's say we're back in that promotion bucket that you had talked about, or performance review bucket, and you take this conversation to the side and you say, because you're a human and just want to talk to a human, what are your thoughts on like recapping those? Can we walk through what that conversation looks like to your initial example where you're performing at similar rate, maybe even outperforming a man, and because of these biases he's getting the opportunities that you deserve? What does that conversation look like, and how do you formalize that
So are you asking how you have that conversation if you see it happening to your manager?
from your manager?
You're having
So
the conversation with your manager, right?
correct, yes.
I think it's around clarity. So I would be very frank and honest and say, I've noticed that this other person's getting promoted.
Mm-hmm.
I help me understand what their experience is versus mine,
Mm,
or their accomplishments versus mine, and then what is it that I need to do to
hmm,
make sure I'm on the right track for promotion.
yeah.
And you want clear statements. You want clear, concrete things, not vagueness of, well, you're just not ready or you're not strategic enough. What does that mean exactly, that I'm not strategic enough? Can you tell me what that looks like in every day? And what are the things that you and I can agree on right now that would show that I am being strategic? What are those actions that I need to take, or what do you need to see happen? I get very specific.
Yeah.
And then I would document that in an email after and say, this is what we agreed to. This is what we're going to work on. And can we, I would like to check in our one-on-ones or once a month to make sure I'm on track.
I love that. Absolutely. I think that is so good. Um, because then not only have you gotten specific, then you have made yourself accountable, made them accountable. It's measurable, it's tangible. I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you have
absolutely.
to go in with an open mind, because maybe there are things that,
Yeah.
you have to be so honest with yourself
Mm-hmm.
about where you are at if you're going to have these type of conversations, right? You have to be really realistic. Do I have more experience than this person? What is the proof that I do? What have I done? What are the results and impact I've made on the business? You have to really think through that for yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
then be open to the conversation and hear their feedback, because it could be really great feedback for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see men getting less feedback? I'm trying to think of like what are other examples where this bias comes into play, and like, are men just given the like, oh, you just need 6 more months or whatever? I mean, I'm
I
trying to
think
think of,
what I've seen is, and I don't know, I'm not in the room all the time with
right.
the men, but what I've seen from the outside is they just get more sponsorship. They have more people interested in their advancement because they view them as being more, they have the potential to be more strategic. So they get their hands held, they get more support, where women aren't typically viewed as being very strategic. So they're not investing as much time with those women as they would with some of the men who they feel like have great potential to be a leader. And this is where the bias comes in of what good leadership and what talent looks like.
Absolutely. So then how do you advise women on gaining more sponsorship when it's kind of a bro club, or, it even subconsciously?
So what I've had to do, and I actually think this works better. So men typically like to, it's not unusual. We gravitate towards people we feel comfortable and familiar with, right? And so
Sure.
sometimes men feel more comfortable with men, and they're having these conversations and being stereotypical, talking about sports or whatever it is, right?
Right. And golf and all the things.
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
And so sometimes those turn into business conversations, and there's a nugget of information
Yeah.
that these guys get, that, or they get assigned a special project, because now they're known more on a personal level than
Yeah.
perhaps one of us. So I had to change the way I approached relationships in business, because I knew I wouldn't always have that type of natural opportunity. And so I build one-on-one relationships within the organization, various levels, different departments, and I collaborate. I share what I'm working on. I ask for their feedback. I am always willing to help them if they need help. And I
Yeah.
build a more personal rapport with people. And I found that when I'm working with somebody like in that capacity, it breaks down the bias, because they start to understand and see my talent and my
Mhm.
experience and my ability. And so then they start to advocate for you and your work in rooms, even when you're not there. And that's the goal. That's really what sponsorship is. It's not mentoring, it's making sure that they're sponsoring your work and making it visible. And so that's worked really well for me. Better, I think, than going to these group drink evenings and things
Yeah.
like that. It's building that rapport, and the collaboration part is critical to building that relationship.
I love that. And that just like, it also just like really keeps it about work. I mean, you can still be a human and be the soft, kind version that is like such a wonderful, it's soft and kind, but yet also like powerful and insightful women that we are. But
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. And it kind of strips away all the noise. I like
Yeah.
that so much. And it
And
makes me,
when you're engaging with these people, you ultimately you are getting at a personal level as
Mhm.
well, because that's the human part of you, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what breaks down barriers, is the human element. But that's the best way I found to do it, is just to have one-on-one conversations with people and build rapport with them that way.
Without a doubt. That also makes me think of how important our network is. I think relative to promotion, relative to outside sales, relative to trying to scale something. We build these systems for efficiencies, and we follow the checklists of our promotional path, et cetera. But what I'm learning, even more so in my entrepreneurial journey, is that relationships and network are really what move the needle forward.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And I talk a lot about that. And I think I share that in the book as one of the strategies that you have to employ. And it's internal networks,
Mm-hmm.
which is critical in a company. You can't do these things alone at any level, but certainly as you're moving up, right? You
Yeah.
need relationships in the organization to move your work, to sponsor your work, to support your work, right?
Yeah.
And so that's critical. But also outside, you want strong support systems for when you are in a situation at work that's just, difficult. You can go and get validation of, am I looking at this the right way or not? But there's also other supports of the external is for me, and I talk a lot to women about this. As you move up, you're getting your job through your network more than you are by going on LinkedIn and applying for a role, right?
100%.
The majority of my roles have been through my network. They
Mm,
they say, hey, I need you to come in and help me in this company. And
incredible.
so it is absolutely important for women to have strong networks externally and internally. And as you said, if you're an entrepreneur, even more so, because that's where your business is going to come from, right? The referrals, all of those things.
Yes, absolutely. I think also in reflection, I don't think I got a single corporate job without it being from my network to at least get my foot in the door and my
Right.
resume on the table, starting
Yeah.
when I was just a little tiny tot to transferring companies, new departments, et cetera.
Yeah.
So absolutely. You step out of the corporate world and you kind of like wash it away a little bit.
Right.
and,
Yes.
but in entrepreneurship, one of the things that I am currently, continuing to reflect on is you have this social media platform. And so you think, I have this ability to scale, I have this ability to drive efficiencies, when really, truly, like that can drive the top of the funnel of your business, right? Like you can get more eyeballs on what you're up to. But when it comes to actually making progress, closing sales, driving signups, whatever it is, the actual action item is that you're trying to do your business, it comes down to a personal relationship.
It does. Yes.
It truly does. So
Yes.
for no matter what seat you sit in out there, um, don't, I can't, these words are coming to mind, but it doesn't feel positive enough. But like, don't get lazy about your network. I think so often we're all so caught up in the task at hand.
Yes.
Um, so caught up with, rightfully so, the personal challenges that were happening in our life. Um, when women, I can imagine a lot of women listening to this conversation are like, I get it. I love it, but I don't have the time. I don't have the time or the capacity to network. I don't have the time to go float my work on someone else's desk to be like, look what I'm doing. How can it serve you? Can I get your feedback? I don't have time to go outside of my organization to build a strong, female support network around like all the things that you were saying, but it's critical. So how do we
It
encourage women to do it? Cause I'm all in,
it
but I
is
think we all feel
critical.
time starved.
It is critical. I've spent years building my network. I
Yeah.
recognize, thankfully, very early in my career, how important it was when I meet somebody at a trade show or somebody that I work with in another company, to maintain that relationship
Mm,
for a number of things, as we said, to get my next role, but also to help me in my current role because I'm getting different perspectives. I'm a marketer, getting different perspectives from other marketers about what they're working on. So all the things that we talk about, that helps you do well in your role. So it's not about not having the time. It's part of your job to do your job well. And
totally.
networking is a big piece of that. And
Mm,
so it's not that it's not time consuming. It is. I
yeah.
speak to probably 2 to 3 people a week. I've been doing it for years.
Ooh, that's
But
motivating.
you have to do that in order to maintain your relationships, because you can't, when you need something, that's not when you start a relationship with somebody. You have to already have that relationship, right? And it's just, you're going to stall in your ability to get another job, and you're going to stall in your current job that you're in to be successful in that if you are not collaborating with other departments or other people, and building those relationships and those networks internally.
It almost feels like the long-term ROI of your network is just like times X to
Yes.
what the daily task is that you are grinding. I know you have a presentation in the morning, and I know you have to get the revisions done, and I know you have to go run data with a different cut, but like those, I love how it's measurable to me, which like makes me feel like, okay, that's tangible. 2 to 3 a week, 1 to 2 a week. What are you investing in? Like the greatest return for your whole career is those 1 to 2 to 3 meetings a week where you're networking with someone.
Right. And the internal one is happening while you're working. It
Mm-hmm.
it clicked for me in one of my roles. I realized that I'm trying to do all of this by myself, and the higher level you get, the more alone you are. Like you're the
Yeah.
only one that really understands that job in your
Yeah.
department. So you need peers to help you. You're going to be better at your job. You're going to get things done faster and more efficiently if you have other people in other departments helping you.
Yeah.
No question about it.
I think that is it's sometimes you just have to flip the script to
Yes.
be like, oh my God, I'm doing something outside of my daily tasks and responsibilities to I'm creating opportunity for myself. I'm becoming smarter and better at my job.
Yes. And
I am
more
setting
efficient.
myself up for my next role.
Right.
I
Yeah.
love this. I love this. What are other things that we want to talk about for challenges that we see in the workplace and where you see scripts that need to flip or where we see women need to shift their perspective?
I think it's in helping understand what your impact is. So, understanding what your department goals are,
Mm-hmm.
what your organizational goals are, and then working through it with your manager or yourself to understand what are the tasks that I'm working on that have the largest impact to achieve that goal.
Mm-hmm.
I think we often just do our jobs. We come
Yeah.
in, we just do our jobs, and we expect that, um, we're going to get promotions off of that hard work. But it's only the people that get visible are the ones who are showing impact. And if you don't understand what your organization or your department's trying to do, you
Mm-hmm.
can't view your work as providing impact towards that goal. It also helps you prioritize when people come and say, oh, I need this because I don't know about other departments, but marketing departments, everybody's like, oh, marketing can do that. Marketing can do that.
Yep. 1,000%.
Then you have to say, actually, this is what marketing's working on, and this is going to help us achieve this much pipeline or
Yep.
whatever it is.
Yep.
So I know we can't work on that right now. So if you
Yeah.
understand your goals and the impact, you can make better decisions on prioritizing what you should and should not be working on.
I love that. And I also think when you are clear on how your work impacts the larger picture, not only can you advocate for yourself, not only can you prioritize, but it just intrinsically motivates you more and makes your job more fulfilling.
Yes.
Sometimes, especially when you're in a giant corporation, you're like, okay, I'm just a cog in the wheel or
Cog in the
whatever it may be.
wheel.
Yeah, cog in the
Yes.
wheel, but you're not. Like
Right.
you are driving genuine, serious impact. So I think really knowing that and staying connected to that really drives an intrinsic motivation that just feels good.
Yes. You're right. And you feel more accomplished for the
Mhm.
right things.
Yeah.
And you're going to be viewed more as being more strategic, which is a bias against us.
Hmm.
If you're having these types of conversations with your manager about the impact of what you're doing, it certainly helps you in your review time as well, and you should be documenting all of that. So that's one area. I think the other area that I would say for women is I find a lot of people who have worked for me in the past, and I've seen it in others, that they assume their manager is responsible for their promotions and their career.
Mm,
And I like to say, you are the CEO of your career. Nobody else is paid to advance your career but you.
I love
And
that.
so you have to look at that in that light, right? Don't wait for somebody else to acknowledge your ability and your accomplishments and your value. You have to show that yourself and build that plan for your career. What am I trying to accomplish? in my career, and what can I get out of this company that I'm in to help me get to my ultimate goal, right? So there has to be a plan. And I don't think we do that enough as women.
No, I totally agree. And I think, again, like we carry such a load, such a large load, mental load, et cetera, that you're like, okay, maybe this is the one place where if I just input, output, if I do my job, I get the promotion. But it's just so
Yeah.
much more nuanced than that.
Yes. That's the lie that we're told, or that we believe when we come in, come out of high school, college, whatever. We're very excited. We have all this ambition, and we believe that if we work hard, the promotions will come.
Yeah.
But it's not about just hard work. It's not just about competency. There's politics at play that you have to understand how to navigate those politics. You have to understand what the perception of leadership is and work towards breaking that bias down, for yourself and for others. And it's always about supporting others. If you support others in the room, if you say in a room, hey, let her finish what she's saying, you'll start to recognize people will do it back for you as well.
Absolutely. It's so worth it. And it really, like, again, I go back to women carry a lot. We often carry the mental load at home, sometimes more the physical tasks. No matter if you have an incredible supportive partner or not. And then we have to go into a biased world at the workplace. Not a woe is me, but for women who are feeling like genuinely exhausted, I think this conversation is so motivating to be like, you're not responsible for the huge script flip. You're the CEO for your own career. So you're responsible to advocate for others, but that's just a simple sentence in a meeting.
Yes.
That's hey, can I grab you for a quick 5 minutes? It isn't like this, the whole change does not lie on your shoulders. To your point of going back to like what part do you play in the larger organization? It's like, what part do you play in undoing a lifetime of bias? It is these small conversations.
And when I've mentor women, and they bring a situation to me that they're experiencing at work, and I say, oh, here's how I would handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I would say. You can tailor it to be comfortable for you, but here's what I would say. I've often got, oh, I can do that. That's not that hard. And that's really what this is about, right? It's not difficult. It's about clarity and communication, clear communication and professional, calm communication. That's all it is. It's just how you word things, and that you are, in fact, wording them. You are naming them and you are addressing it. That's all this is about. It's really not that difficult to do.
Yeah. And maybe it's something about undoing the bias on our side that we will never be heard, or that like, you
Yes.
don't know until you try.
And a lot of women say to me, well, I don't feel comfortable speaking in these rooms. I have a situation with somebody who called me, and they were going to become a VP, and they said, I'm so nervous about going in the room and speaking because I'm in a room of all men, which for the majority of my career as an executive, I was the only female in the room.
Sure.
And they said, how do you get over that fear? And I said, by speaking up. By just speaking. I said, you have to be competent and good at your job. So that helped me a lot, right? I really mastered my profession. I stay up with my profession. Yeah. I know my business, right? I have the data, all of it. Yeah. So that helped. And then when I spoke up and people started to listen because I was confident in what I was doing, that gave me more courage to continue to speak up. But you're never going to feel that if you don't speak up.
Without a doubt. You got to put the reps in,
Yeah, you have to just make that attempt. And you may speak up and people ignore you, but then you address being ignored, and then you continue to speak up. Yeah. And it will come. The influence and credibility will come.
What would you say to women who are afraid of being labeled difficult or not a team player because they are using their voice?
I think you have to recognize where it's coming from. It's not you, so don't internalize it. It's the system. You have to address it. And if that continues, if that behavior continues and you're addressing it with that person, and maybe it's depending on how severe it is, maybe it's an HR conversation or your boss or whatever. If you're not getting anywhere, then the next question is this the right environment for me to work in?
Yeah, absolutely. And that we forget that we have agency and that, we can move to a different space if need
Right.
be. Yeah,
Yes. But
absolutely.
I always, that's a conversation. That decision is also has to be very strategic. Is it one person? That person may end up leaving the company, or other people may recognize that that's not that person's not a good fit. So don't just jump because you think I'm going to show them and I'm going to leave, because you're hurting yourself by doing that, right? You could be hurting yourself financially. If it's a company where you are learning, you're gaining influence, you're getting something, you're getting experience in one of the areas that you need because you built a plan of what you need long term, then it might be worth staying. Um, but if it's a really toxic environment and you're not getting anywhere and nobody's hearing you, or it's so toxic that you don't feel comfortable speaking out, then yeah, you might want to consider looking for a better culture to work in.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're building your dream business and you need to build an email list, but the idea of picking and using an email platform totally overwhelms you, trust me, I get it. But I've got you, girl. Flowdesk is where it's at. Flowdesk is the email marketing platform designed with female entrepreneurs in mind. Think gorgeous, on-brand templates plus powerful workflows that save you hours. I promise you, I've never used an easier email platform with such stunning results. Whether you're sending an email launching a new offer or podcast episode, sharing new news, or trying out a fancy workflow to convert a new email subscriber into a paying customer, Flowdesk helps you show up professionally with ease without spending a ton of time or money. And not to mention, these emails are gorgeous. And because you're a Write Your Own Story podcast listener, you get an exclusive 50% off your first year of Flowdesk. Plus, they'll send you $19 cash back when you join using the link in the show notes. So if you're ready to send stunning emails that convert and actually enjoy the process, click the link in the show notes and give Flowdesk a try. That's 50% off your first year plus $19 back in your pocket. Check out Flowdesk today. It's like your super talented email writing best friend. I promise you won't regret it. Now, back to the episode. What I love about your book is that not only does it sort of validate people's experiences by highlighting these scenarios, but it also gives scripts for people, I think, and kind of reflecting on when you said women come to you and then you give your advice and say, tailor it to you. And they go, well, that wasn't that hard. Why do you think it's almost like women are voiceless until given an example? And then it's like, oh, okay, I can do that. Why do you think we find ourselves in the scenario of kind of like stuck and frozen almost?
Well, I think some of it's just societal, like how we've been conditioned as young women to be kind and nice and quiet and not aggressive. And, there's some of that, and that's generational, and
Oh yeah.
it may happen in your family, but it's also, you're bringing that into work, right? Not just you, the other people are bringing it into work. That's their view, right? So there's
Yes.
that bias of that. And sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Oh my gosh, it happens to me every single day.
Yeah.
But there's this notion of like, what keeps women frozen? Like, why are we?
Thank you. So what keeps women frozen is, you think about when you're in that room and something's happening to you, you're not just thinking about the answer, you're thinking about the risk of answering. And that's why I like to provide scripts. So it takes away that burden, that load of having to think, what should I say? And can I say it right now? And how should I say it so that it's not offensive? You have that script and you can just go ahead and say that, knowing that it's going to come out calm, professional, and strategic.
Incredible. Incredible. I think if there was, kind of wrapping us up, if there were one thing that you really wanted women to take away from this conversation, and from the work that you put out there, what would it be?
That there are, first of all, it's not you. It is a system.
Yeah.
So don't internalize these things and think poorly of yourself, because it isn't you at all. And the second thing is, there are strategies, and they're pretty simple for you to be able to name them, address them, and thrive in your career and have a joyful career. I've done it.
Yeah.
And so I want women to believe that, because we do carry a very heavy burden with us, that this is just impossible to get promoted or to enjoy my job. But there are strategies to allow you to feel good about yourself, that you're advocating for yourself, and it does help you maneuver around or through those barriers.
I love that. I absolutely love that. You really, truly do have more control than you think. And like, I think so often, one of the reasons that I wanted to start this company and start this show in particular was to highlight women more often than not, challenge societal shoulds, and realize that you have the power of the pen. Like, you get to write your script, you get to write your story. Like, it is more of a blank canvas than we realize.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's about advocating for yourself and finding that courage to try it at least once and get comfortable with advocating for yourself, and certainly advocating for others. We always have to help others as well.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for saying that. I think, again, the world is heavy right now for absolutely everyone.
Yes.
And it is hard not to just have your head down and trying to get through your things and to feel your load and your burden. But the quickest way to make impact and to genuinely feel better is to help someone else.
Yes. Yeah. Bring somebody else along.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, this has just been the most incredible perspective. How can people get more of you? How can we get the book? Where can we find and follow your content?
Sure. So my book, Not Made for You, is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, the typical, but it's definitely on Amazon. If you go to my website, which is kaewilliams.com, and that's Kae Williams.com, there's links there to buy the book, and also links to my social sites of, I'm on LinkedIn, Substack, and Instagram, where I talk a lot more about the topics that we discussed today.
Excellent. Yes. I think there is obviously such level of depth and nuance and, a multifaceted point of view on all of these topics. So I think, everyone absolutely go check this out. The book and the scripts that are provided are so high value. So absolutely, everyone go check out her content, grab the book, and leave the reviews and tell other women about this. This is the kind of stuff that we need to help each other out. So, okay. Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Betsy. I appreciate it. I really appreciate the conversation.
Absolutely. And likewise, this filled my cup and I'm all energized and motivated for the day. That is one of the many blessings of having the show, is I get to meet incredible women like you. So you guys absolutely share this episode. There are so many of us out there navigating these corporate spaces or these, company-led spaces. And let's continue to build these incredible environments for women to find joy and to thrive in their careers.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on the show.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Well, that's the end of this episode, but promise me, you won't stop here with whatever it is you're feeling or dreaming about. I hope you leave today feeling empowered to live life just as you see fit. If this podcast was helpful to you, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on. I genuinely just want to help women live the life they dream about. So if this type of content tracks with you, subscribe to this podcast or visit our website, writeyourownsstory.co, to download digital courses or to grab a journal and a mug to just dream in and dream with. It's your life, lady. Do you. And just remember, I'm rooting for you, and you've totally got this.